Yo, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. You may know me as the former producer for the Murph and Mac Morning Show on KMBR, or maybe from some of these other Locked On shows that we do. Just a reminder, Locked On Giants postcasts right around the corner, just a couple weeks away. But today, we got to talk about a lot of things on this Locked On 49ers show, including the free agent wide receiver market and potentially the 49ers linked to a couple of these big names that are still floating around out there.
I'm Merchant Osley, NFL trending reporter from USA Today, and I'll be talking about, in addition to all those wide receivers available, there's a few pass rushers that the 49ers could show a little interest in. We'll see which ones make sense.
Hey everyone, I'm Dwayne Boyd, four-time Super Bowl champion, and I'm trying to figure out why the 49ers brought in Matt Eberflus. A fluke? Was it a fluke or is it a dud? Okay, we'll see what goes with that.
We'll get into all that and more today on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show, which starts right now.
To all the faithful, it's the 49ers Squad. Everything San Francisco 49ers every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from Levi's Stadium. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. For those faithful to the Bay, the 49ers Squad Show starts now.
What's up, everybody, and thanks so much for joining us on another edition of the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. Shout out to everyone joining on the Locked On 49ers YouTube channel, or if you're tuning in on the Locked On 49ers podcast feed, we appreciate you as well. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you aren't already subscribed, and today's show is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. And guys, I want to start with the Matt Eberflus thing. And like you said, Dwayne, I got a sinking feeling that this might be a Eberflub of a hire by the 49ers. They've done this before, but man, I am not thrilled about the 49ers bringing in a former Cowboy coordinator, which, Dwayne, I know that just gets you going, and a guy who got ran out of Chicago for bad clock management. I mean, we already have enough, Kyle Shanahan clock management questions still floating around in the ether, stemming all the way back to the 21-3 Super Bowl. We all know the context there, but there's some things about Matt Eberflus that just don't sit right with me as far as his track record and them bringing him in here. And I'm sure that the 49ers front office knows a little bit more than I do about this. But Dwayne, you're a guy who's been on both sides of it. You've been a coach, you've been a player. What do you make of this Matt Eberflus thing? Are you a fan of them bringing him in, or do you have some reservations about it?
I'm not a big fan of bringing him in. I got some reservations about it because you hired a proven defensive coordinator, and right now, what is he going to bring to the table? The Cowboys had the personnel, I thought, to be a decent defense, but they didn't. I think they ended pretty close to the bottom of the pile in every category. Against the run and pass, and usually when they bring in a guy like that, he's got to have some kind of expertise about him, but I just don't see it against him.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he did not. I mean, he wasn't out there on the field for the Cowboys, but the Cowboys defense did not play very well last year at all. And he's a guy who, I mean, like the Chicago defense when he was there was not horrible, but it wasn't great either. And I know that he's not the defensive coordinator. I know he's not down there calling plays or up in the booth nowadays calling plays, but he's not directly impacting the defense in a game-to-game situation, but he's still in that coaching room. His fingerprints, so to speak, are still going to be on this defense to some extent. And whether or not that's just him supplementing Raheem Morris and what the 49ers already want to do, or whether that's him actually making tweaks and changes, I'm not so sure. So Dwayne, as an assistant coach in the NFL, like how much do those guys actually, change game plans and stuff? Or are they just there to kind of like help the process kind of move along?
They're more like someone there that's helping the process to take flight. But with him, I don't see him bringing anything to the table myself. If he was all that great, he would still be in the Cowboys. But because Jerry Jones is kind of like Al Davis. If he sees something in somebody, he's going to hold on to him no matter what. But this guy, I don't see it.
Yeah, and I think I kind of feel the same way. I mean, the 49ers have brought in some head coaches that didn't pan out in the NFL before. This is not something that they haven't done. Of course, Brandon Staley and Gus Bradley have been kind of similar hires, but man, the 49ers have a rather impressive collection of assistant coaches these last couple of years that just have really terrible clock management skills. And I know that, again, he's not the guy who's sitting there actively managing the clock. That would be Kyle Shanahan, but it just doesn't make you feel that great. I think the optics on this aren't fantastic. Ayrton, what are you feeling about this hire?
Yeah, it's something where you look at, I think we got a couple comments kind of agreeing, echoing this statement, where it's kind of similar to what they did last year with hiring Gus Bradley, where you bring in an experienced coach. But I'm kind of like, and again, it's one of those things, coaching salaries don't count against the salary cap. That's something that we don't need to worry about. It's more how much ownership's willing to spend to bring that in. But I just it seems unnecessary to me. He's got experience, yeah, but as you know, to Dwayne's point, the last time he was calling plays on the defense, he was a defensive play caller last year in Dallas. They were 32nd in passing yards allowed, 23rd in rushing yards allowed. Honestly, I think they were only 23rd in rushing because that offense was putting up so many points. Opposing teams were just throwing the ball around trying to keep up. I mean, he hasn't overseen a top 10 scoring defense since 2021 with Indianapolis when he was a defensive coordinator. So it's coming up on 5 years since he's done that. So I question, what is the expertise? He's experienced from, as we've seen, making not the best choices in clock management and, basically losing out on maximizing a year of a young quarterback. So it's like, what experience is great, but what benefit is that experience? I just call into question with that. So I don't fully understand it. Again, we're not in the franchise, but it just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. And if it is kind of like minimal impact, as you were kind of describing earlier, Dwayne, where this is a guy who's not really going to be putting his thumbprint on the game plan, so to speak, he's just going to be kind of helping the process move along, then why the hell are you going out and spending all this money on a guy who is seemingly sort of inconsequential? Like, I'm not saying that he's a useless, like, warm body out there. I'm not saying that I could step into this job, but I am saying I'm positive that there were plenty of other candidates that you could have gone out and got that would have provided you the same thing, maybe something better. Maybe you take a risk and you bring in a relatively unknown name or an unproven name, and you can build that guy up, something like they did with a Mike McDaniel or something like they did with a DeMeco Ryans. And while DeMeco was a more household name, I would say, than Mike McDaniel for sure, considering he played in the league himself. But you get what I'm saying. Like, why not bring in Patrick Willis or somebody like that? Why not bring in Dante Whitner? Why not bring in Dwayne Board? Why not? Well, you got so many other options out there. You could go a lot of different directions with this, and it just doesn't make sense to me why they would go out and get another former head coach. And I mean, I guess the Brandon Staley thing and the Gus Bradley thing didn't really like hurt the 49ers to our knowledge. So this is very in line with what they've done. And I get that that's just kind of what they do with this specific role that they hired him in as an assistant head coach and all that. But it just doesn't make sense to me why you'd go and waste that money. This is a team that has, had to do a ton of financial maneuvers recently. And I know that, like you said, Ayrton, it's not counting against the cap. But Jed York, I'm sure he doesn't want to go and spend all this extra money if he doesn't have to. I mean, the York family isn't Eddie D, he's not, they're not just throwing the money around like Eddie used to a little bit, but it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me that they would do this. And I don't know, maybe there's something there that we're not seeing with Eberflus, and this might be something that helps the 49ers in some unforeseen way. But I don't know. It just doesn't sit right with me. Like I said, the optics, I think, are kind of worse than what will actually happen. Also, like, I don't think that this is going to be anything that could possibly be detrimental to the team. I mean, worst case scenario, the guy's just sitting there kind of, like you said, Dwayne, just kind of helping practice move along. He's sitting there, blowing the whistle for guys to run drills and stuff. I mean, okay, sure. Like, anybody can just do that, but it's just a little unsettling, I think is the right word, as a 49er fan. And I don't know, man. Dwayne, is there any way that you could foresee him kind of like derailing the 49ers game plan or defense at all in this role?
Well, for one thing, you got to look at, he's probably getting paid by the Dallas Cowboys, okay? The majority of his money is coming from the Cowboys. So in that aspect, the 49ers are helping Jerry Jones a little bit on paying his contract. And I can see him, it's one thing that you would think maybe he has some connections to some players that the 49ers might have the eye on, which would be the linebacker from the Bears, Emmons. But I don't think that's a possibility. So you get in a situation where if the defense starts to struggle, what can he do? Can he help? I don't think so. He didn't save the Cowboys when that defense was going down the road. So I just can't see how this is going to work.
Yeah, he does have over 17 years of NFL experience, which, I mean, that's a long time to be around the league. And I'm not saying that, things are, I'm not saying all that experience is worth nothing. I get that he was relatively successful in Indianapolis, but that was a while ago. The league's changed a hell of a lot since then. And some guys kind of just get left behind as the league evolves and schemes change and such. So I am a little worried about that, but Dwayne, I think you're hitting on something there, because maybe not a current player on the 49ers, but when I'm looking around at pass rushers that are available throughout the league right now, were guys that could potentially be traded for, guys that were recently not tagged, guys that were recently released. There is one name that comes to mind that does have a connection to Matt Eberflus, and that is Tremaine Edmonds from the Chicago Bears. He was just released earlier today, and he's a free agent. So the 49ers have an opportunity to go get a Tremaine Edmonds, which I think that he's a potential really good signing alongside Fred Warner. I think he might be a little too pricey for the 49ers at that position, considering what they already got in D. Winters. Ayrton, do you think it would be a good move for the 49ers to at least try to maybe kick the tires on that, considering now they got some familiarity in the building? And the other part of this is, do you want that familiarity with Matt Eberflus? His time with the Bears did not end very well. Do you think that those guys that were in that locker room have a lot of good feelings about him?
I'm not quite so sure. I'd say it's worth it to kick the tires on somebody like that, just because you look at Edmonds' athletic profile. He's one of the more athletic linebackers we've seen in the league in recent history, which can definitely help with, making sure, as we've talked about over and over on this show, solving the issue of lack of speed on defense. So I'd say, depending on how much he wants, this is a pretty solid linebacker free agency class. So I want to bring him in. That's okay. But I'd also counter, as we've been talking about multiple times as well, this is a very good linebacker draft class. So I would say the options are there that, maybe don't invest too much into it. But hey, if you're looking for a depth piece, the other ones don't work out, it's a good safeguard against, not finding your guy, or your guy not being available in the draft. Okay, I don't hate it.
And he's not the only option out there. There are a ton of other options that we'll dive deeper into a little bit later in the show. But ultimately, like I said, I don't really think that this is going to have too big of an impact on the 49ers. I don't think that this is the make or break move for the 49ers this offseason that determines whether or not they're a playoff team, whether or not they are picking in the top half of the NFL draft in 2027. I don't think Eberflus is going to have too much of an impact on those types of things. Like I said, I think this is just more of an optics thing. It probably matters more to the fans than to the actual organization itself at this point, the way that just it's perceived amongst the fan base. So we'll see how it all plays out. We'll see how he meshes with the Raheem Morris system and just the coaching staff as a whole. But again, this is not something that the 49ers have. This isn't off script for the 49ers. This is very much so in line with what they've done in years past. And I just kind of wish it was a different guy. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really want those bad vibes, that bad juju around. It didn't end well in Dallas. It didn't end well in Chicago. We'll see if it ends well here in San Francisco. But we got some other news we got to get into. As I said, a ton of pass rushers suddenly available, it seems like, across the league. Let's get into that on the other side here on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. Today's show is brought to you by Gametime. We live in a world where we can stream anything, order food in minutes, and carry supercomputers in our pockets. And somehow buying tickets to a live game still just feels so damn complicated. Hidden fees, jumping prices, endless steps. There has to be a better way. And that's why I use the Gametime app. It gives fans the advantage and makes getting tickets simple, whether it's NFL games, concerts, comedy, whatever you're into. And I'll tell you what, man, here in the Bay Area right now, there might be no better show than Macklin Celebrini and the San Jose Sharks. It is this kid is unreal. And guess what? They're home this weekend. They got some tickets still available out there on Gametime. So if you're looking for something to do maybe tonight or tomorrow, go check out Gametime for some San Jose Sharks tickets. Macklin Celebrini setting the world on fire. And of course, make sure that you use the zone deals where you just pick the section. Gametime picks the seat for extra savings. 2 taps and you have great seats locked in. Fast, easy, done. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets, download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, joined by my guys, Dwayne Board and Ayrton Ostley. Dwayne Board, of course, a 4-time Super Bowl champion, and Ayrton is writing for USA Today, covering the league as a whole. And guys, we got a lot of pass rushers that are suddenly available. We talked about Tremaine Edmonds a little bit and what he could potentially bring to this Niners team, which is some much needed speed. But yeah, I think that you got to I think that price point might be a little too steep. You got some other ones floating around out there. Dwayne and I kicked around a couple names last week during the end of the show after you had to go, Ayrton. But who do you think of, like, the numerous guys that are out there right now? Who do you think the 49ers, one, have the best chance of getting, and two, if in whatever fantasy world you want to live in, who is the one guy that if you could just grab him right now, who is that one guy? And are these two players the same?
Oof. Oh, man. The interesting thing is, like, I look at historically what the 49ers have liked, longer edge rushers who set the edge and run defense in addition to getting after the passer. And my mind then goes to Draymond Jones, who the Titans offloaded to Baltimore last year at the trade deadline. He's going to be entering his age 29 season. How much money does he want? I liked him just from that fit where he's kind of a longer, bigger edge rusher. He's a guy who can kick inside if you want on downs as well. So you could definitely get, I've always had my eye on him. He was a trade target for me during the deadline for the 49ers. They didn't end up moving on to get him, but hey, that's okay. Looking down the list, I love to consider guys who are hitting their second contract, and it's more just, or second, maybe third, if their second contract was like a prove it deal. Ones that maybe were in a smaller role and could take on something bigger. So I look at somebody like Kingsley Enagbare, who I really liked coming out of South Carolina in the draft a few years ago. Entering his age 26 season, played 4 years out in Green Bay, and honestly, Green Bay just didn't give him a whole lot of opportunity. There was a whole lot of pass rushers ahead of him. Bigger guy, can set the edge and run defense. If he's your rotational third or fourth edge rusher, life is good. Life is great. I'm down for that. So I'm looking at those two as potential fits. Also, Arnold Ebiketie is just a natural fit coming over with familiarity with Raheem Morris, another younger guy hitting his second contract in Atlanta. There's a changeover. Obviously, he's not necessarily going to be a target to stay just because they've changed so much in that organization coming into 2026. Those are a few names that I would keep an eye on just because I don't like to approach free agency trying to pay the most for the big name guys, because that's not how you win. You win by drafting your stars, not getting them in free agency. So I'm looking for those, second tier pass rushers, less than 10 million a year type guys to really fill out.
Yeah, this isn't baseball. You can't just go and buy championships in the NFL like the Dodgers have been doing the last few years in Major League Baseball. True. It's a more cohesive unit in the NFL, but there are some of the top end guys that I know appeal to Dwayne that I personally, the more that I look into at Odafe Owe, I really like him, and I know that he is probably going to cost you a pretty penny, and that he came on pretty strong last year in San Diego. Last 2 years, really, he was kind of starting to come into his own. But I think that he would be a very good option opposite Nick Bosa. And man, I just think back to when they had Chase Young and Nick Bosa both on that defensive line and how dominant they were at getting opposing quarterbacks on the ground. And I mean, it really almost won the 49ers the Super Bowl. Like, that move was so good. And I would love to see them be able to kind of recreate some of that pressure that they were able to generate. And God knows the 49ers need to be able to start creating some damn pressure. And so, Dwayne, I know last time we talked with just a couple days ago that you were really beating the drum for Trey Hendrickson, who I believe is probably going to command the highest contract of any pass rusher in free agency here. What do you think about any of these other options? Do you think that what Ayrton's kind of kicking around, the maybe some of the more rotational guys like a Draymond Jones might be more feasible for the 49ers?
Well, I'm gonna throw a wrench in the fire, okay? So I'm looking at it like this: when you're in situations where you need a situation pass rusher and a guy who can come in and be a solid player, but his age is going to kill him, okay? And he's been productive for a number of years, and I'm gonna call it's you know, he's a Cal guy, okay? So you can't go wrong with a Cal guy, okay? So I'm gonna call out Cameron Jordan, okay? He's a productive guy. Out of a lot of free agents now, he's probably have the most sacks of them all. I think he ended the season with like 10.5 sacks. He's good against the run. And he'll be great in the locker room, and it'll be great for the younger football players to learn from, because this guy's got a background, and I like him, okay? And he's doable. So am I going off course right now because I'm pulling out an old man? You got to give him a chance. He still got some left in the tank, because I know back in the day we used to go out and get we would pull one in every once in a while, and they came in and they helped us win football games, and they were productive pass rushers, and those guys don't lose that skill.
Yeah, I mean, what a homecoming that would be for a Cam Jordan to come back to the Bay Area where he played his college ball. And I would have a really hard time seeing that guy leaving the Saints, though. I feel like if he's going to come back, he's going to stick with the Saints, at least in my mind. Maybe the Saints want to kind of turn the page on the old guard and you know, kind of start fresh, because things have not been so great down in New Orleans these last few years. But you also, if you're the New Orleans Saints and Cam Jordan wants to come back for another year, I don't know how you don't bring him back. I mean, that guy's been the heart and soul of your defense for, you know, almost 2 decades now. And this guy has just been, I think he holds damn near every defensive like pass rusher record, franchise record for the Saints. Like, he has just been a machine down there. So I would be really surprised if he became a 49er, but man, I would really like that move. I know that it would be a 1-year rental essentially, but hey, you know, like you said, bring along some of the younger guys, help Mikael Williams kind of get some additional moves under his belt rather than just relying on his athleticism. And same with Alfred Collins and CJ West and all these other young guys that they got back there. I love Nick Bosa. He doesn't seem too much to me like he's like I'm going to take the younger guy under my wing and teach him some stuff. I mean, maybe he is. Obviously, none of us are sitting in there in the 49ers, you know, practices in the locker room. We aren't seeing those types of conversations. But when I'm just reading the person that is Nick Bosa, the very relaxed, very chill, very unbothered Nick Bosa, I love that for him. But that just doesn't seem like the mentor type. You know what I mean? Dwayne, did you play with anybody that was quite like Nick Bosa in that sense of where he just he's so dominant on the field, but he just seems so aloof? And were those guys, if you did play with anybody like that, were they good mentor types?
Well, not in my position. No, not anywhere in the defensive line. We didn't have nobody like that. But when we did go out and rent Deion Sanders, he was kind of like that. You know, he was a guy that he showed up, went to practice, went home. You never saw him talking to a younger player, teaching the younger player how to play press man or anything like that. It was almost like his game was a secret to everybody. And I understand that. Some guys do that because they feel like it's not my job, okay? But going back to Cam Jordan, though, I know he's the type guy would take these younger guys and bring them along with no problem, because he's just that kind of a guy. And it's hard to say. I'm not at practice and I haven't seen Bosa. I've seen him on the field practice a couple of times, but he's always kind of aloof. He's off to himself mostly, and that's a little different. And you know, his brother's out there too. Maybe he'll come back and play the opposite end from him. But In Buffalo, he wasn't that productive last year. I think he ended the year with maybe 5 sacks or something like that. But is he the kind of guy that will help a younger guy? I don't think so. What do you think?
I mean, I think the Bosa brothers would love to have each other on the team, but yeah, I kind of agree with you. I don't see either one of them as the mentor type. If you were going to go get a veteran, there's also another very huge, old guy name that's still out there that we haven't brought up, and that's Khalil Mack. And Khalil Mack would be, I mean, who knows how much he would cost? I don't think he's going to be a top dollar type guy, but for if you're going to kick around the idea of bringing in a vet who's still got maybe a little bit left in the tank and could definitely help teach some of the younger guys, I mean, you could do a lot worse than Khalil Mack. And this was one of the most dominant defensive players in the league for a few seasons. Granted, that was, about a decade ago, but I think he could still provide you some juice off the edge, especially if he's not the main pass rusher. I know his last few years in San Diego in Los Angeles were not up to the Khalil Mack standard that we saw earlier in his career. But hey, I think he's still a guy who could get you maybe 5, 6, 7 sacks if he's alongside Nick Bosa. And he's a guy, like I said, who can really help teach some of those younger guys. You also got maybe a Hassan Reddick out there who's not quite in that same age bracket as these other guys, but he's also a guy who's been around for a while. There's a bunch of veteran pass rushers out there that the 49ers could kick the tires on, but I kind of think that they're going to end up going the direction that you were talking about, Ayrton. Maybe someone like a Draymond Jones, someone that they can kind of save some money on, and we'll see. Dwayne, one thing that came to my mind when you were talking about Dion, it's really interesting that you say that about him, because now obviously he's the head coach of a college football team, which is all about development and bringing along the younger guys. And it's really interesting to see that juxtaposition. So maybe we could be wrong about Bosa. Maybe as he ages, he could kind of turn into that coaching mentor type, just like Dion did.
Well, Dion went through a whole staff of NFL coaches, and they're all gone now. I saw he just got rid of one of his favorite guys, and what do you think, Dion? When are you gonna look at yourself in the mirror and say, maybe it's me, because he ditched Warren Sapp quick, right in the middle before spring football is going to start. So what does that tell you?
Yeah, I mean, crazy stuff going on out there in Buffalo, and just what a wild ride it's been to follow along the whole Deion Sanders roller coaster that has been his coaching career, and with his kids involved in the whole thing. And I'm really curious to see how he pans out as a coach without his kids on the team. I think that's really interesting to see what he's able to do. How much it's obviously a lot easier to care about something with your whole heart when your kids are involved in it. When they're not, maybe it's a little bit different. So we'll see what happens there. But as far as the 49ers go, I am pretty intrigued to see what's going to happen with what they do at pass rusher. I think that this is a hugely important position for the 49ers. Obviously, they were god-awful at rushing the passer last year. They have to improve this year when trying to figure out how to get some pressure on the quarterback. So we'll see what happens. But we got some other things we got to get into. The 49ers connected to a couple top flight wide receivers that are still out there on the market. So let's get into it next on the other side here on the Locked On 49ers podcast. Who are the 49ers going to bring in this offseason to catch passes from Brock Purdy? We'll get into it all next. Today's show is brought to you by TurboTax. It's tax time, but for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes is a lot. Trying to book an appointment that's not the most convenient, sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth, and wondering if they really get your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. And just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of walking in and meeting a real person and walking out knowing your taxes are being handled right. Head to turbotax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, joined by Ayrton Osley of USA Today and Dwayne Board, 4-time Super Bowl champion with your San Francisco 49ers. And guys, we got some things brewing with the free agent market and the 49ers connections to a few different wide receivers out there. And Albert Breer earlier today linking the 49ers to Alec Pierce. I thought I said Alex, but the dyslexic brain's getting a hold of me now. Alec Pierce, not Alex Pierce from the Indianapolis Colts, a burner. We talked about him a little bit at the end of last show. Dwayne, I know you want him to be a little bit more consistent as far as his catch to target ratio. Ayrton, what do you feel about Alec Pierce? I mean, we know how severely this team lacks speed on both sides of the ball right now, and there's no doubt about it. Alec Pierce could definitely add some speed to this roster.
Oh, that's without that. Yeah, that's his biggest benefit ever since he came out of Cincinnati as a prospect. It was like, this is a guy who's got speed. He's tall, he's fast. But I look at it, I'm with y'all with, he just jumps from 2024 to 2025 with a lot of the Indianapolis Colts offense, just a huge spike in productivity. And part of me is kind of wondering, with that, how much of that is when the Colts dropped Tyler Warren into that offense and suddenly it unlocked everybody else having their roles in the wide receiver room, in the tight end room, kind of like everything links together just by him filling in those gaps that they needed. So I'm kind of for me, I am very hesitant because I think he's going to cost a lot of money. I think he's probably going to get close to, I'd say probably 27, 28 million AAV per year. That's really steep. I can't buy in with that. I think that's for a skill set that you're looking for, which is just speed. I would rather take a bet on a burner in the draft if you can. Obviously, this year is not on the rest of the free agent market. I would just he's not proven enough. I think one awesome year, that's great for him. He'll get paid. Let somebody else overpay him. I'm happy to let that go. Maybe consider Rashid Shaheed for probably half the price if you want to, or even farther down, you see Darnell Mooney, gives you a little bit of speed. He's going to be less than 10 million a year. Just taking a look down, just not necessarily tying yourself to Pierce, who's just going to take up so much of your cap space and a big bet.
And it's really hard to not do the comparison, right? Like when you hear that $30 million a year range, who would you rather have? A fully healthy Brandon Ayuk, who actually wants to be there and is motivated for $30 million a year, or Alec Pierce for $30 million? Like just put all of the drama aside for a second, pretend it doesn't exist. Just think about the skill set on the football field. It's not even close, man. Like these guys are not even in the same stratosphere. I mean, Brandon Ayuk would run circles around Alec Pierce's route tree. And the way that Ayuk can generate separation and who knows if he's going to be able to do the same thing coming off the second knee injury. But we don't really know. So at this point, what Brandon Ayuk is, where he's at physically or where he's at mentally at this point, to be honest. But when you're just comparing straight across, like skill set wise, I don't think it's a question as to who you would rather have. And that gives me some pause. Like when I think of Alec Pierce, I think of a guy like Torrey Smith, when the 49ers got him in, when he was just kind of like I'm not going to say a one-trick pony, but what his skill is. It's the go ball. It's the 9 route. It's taking the top off the defense. And that's what Alec Pierce can provide you. I don't know that it's worth $30 million a year. I really don't. And you said one thing you did mention, Ayrton, was that there weren't too many burners in the draft. And I do want to get to the other wide receiver that we teased that the 49ers have been linked to. But since you brought it up, there is a guy with the last name Lance who wore number 5 at North Dakota State University who just posted a top 10 time in the 40-yard dash at the NFL Combine. And we're talking, of course, about Trey Lance's younger brother, who was he was a monster at the Combine. Ayrton, you saw him in person. What'd you think? Do you think he's an option for the 49ers to maybe try and snag in the later rounds? And 49ers fans, if you still got that number 5 Trey Lance hanging in the closet, don't get rid of that one just yet. You might be able to still utilize that.
Yeah, no, I would say he's definitely one of those Combine winners who just put on an absolute show with in a class with a lot of big guys, taller wide receivers. He's definitely one that just stood out from his ability. His vertical, his explosiveness was just all over it it was fun to watch. I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty great. So I could see it making sense for the 49ers to go with Bryce Lance later in the draft. There's no doubt that he's going to be, I think, if you want that vertical skill set, he's one that can offer you verticality as well as contested catch, basically high pointing balls, because he's 6'3", 207, got a good wingspan. He can go up and get it. If you're willing to overlook the last name, if you are, I think it's worthwhile, just because, as I said, skill sets, there's not a lot of that in this draft. With guys that can offer you vertical speed. They're vertical ball winners, like Carnell Tate, who we talked about. But those kind of guys, they win more just from having the contested catch know-how, strength at the catch point, not taking the top off the defense with their legs.
In the NFL.com, when you look at the prospect lists or the prospect bio pages on NFL.com, it gives you like a cool little score for each one of the things, like his production score, his athleticism score, his total score. This guy, his athleticism score, 99, first overall in this wide receiver class. And when you look across the board, it's no surprise. 4.34 40-yard dash, 41.5-inch vertical jump, 11 feet, over an 11-foot broad jump. I mean, this guy, 1.49 10-yard split. This guy is, I mean, he's electric. Physicality is there, no question about it. But Trey Lance had that physicality, and he impressed a lot of people at the combine as well. We've seen how that worked out in the NFL for him, which was not super great. So we'll see if that's a target for the 49ers in the draft. But Ayrton, I know you got to get going pretty quick here. I want to get one more question in, and then we'll let you get on out of here. You got one other option that the 49ers have been linked to by ESPN, and that's Romeo Doubs. And I believe it was Dan Graziano who I mean, had really predicted and put out there he really thinks that this Doubs deal is going to happen. Real quick, what do you think about Romeo Doubs and his potential fit with the 49ers?
I don't mind it. Honestly, I don't, because I think he offers you kind of a similar skill set to what Juwan Jennings gives you, but he's younger and I think he's a little bit more explosive, a little bit more athletic. But he's a guy you can stick on the outside, and he's going to take care of business. He hasn't had a ton of production, but then again, that's kind of another product of Green Bay's passing offense. There's no real top dog, but it seemed like time and time again, when they needed a big play, that's who they went to. Kind of similar to the legend of third and Juwan all the time with the 49ers. It could be something where Doubs offers you something similar, just younger, proven. I know people want to rag on him because he wears the head cap, the Guardian cap, so it looks a little funny, but he's a good player. And when I saw that, I'm like, that's not the worst idea if you want to go in, see what his market is, because he's one of the younger wide receivers. He will command some decent money, but is it going to be Alec Pierce money, or is it going to be more like, Rashid Shaheed, 14, million, 15 million AAV? That's not, I could see that happening, especially if you're looking at this, surveying your needs on the roster. And you're like, you know what, we'd love to take a wide receiver in the first round, but maybe we should prioritize the offensive line. Maybe we should prioritize speed on defense instead. Let's get Doubs just to safeguard, make sure we have somebody there.
And he does, Graziano even threw out a number. He said 3 years, 49 mil in total. So that would come out to an average annual value of about 16 mil a year, which is kind of just like that's about what Juwan Jennings supposedly is going to command in the open market as well. So it would kind of just be swapping one for the other in that situation. I think it would be an interesting thing to see if the 49ers go with him. Ayrton, I know you got to go, so we'll let you get on out of here, buddy. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next week.
Take care, guys.
All right, see you.
And so, Dwayne, Romeo Doubs and his potential fit with the 49ers. I mean, this is a guy who has had a ton of concussions throughout his career. Yes, he wears the Guardian cap, but the 49ers, I don't think you can really risk having other guys on this team who are susceptible to injuries, who are injury prone, and a concussion. It's one of those things where once you start getting them, you just keep getting them. It doesn't get any better. It gets harder and harder and harder to not get those types of injuries. So does that concern you at all?
Oh yeah, that's a big concern, because hey, all it takes is one little bump, and man, when the guys get concussions, they're gone for just like a high ankle sprain almost. Yeah. You got to wait not just days and weeks, but months for them guys to clear it, get cleared to come back to play. So I would stay away from that. It's too big of it's too big of a headache for the 49ers to take on somebody like that and pay them that kind of money. So, and we talked about the receiver core is loaded in the draft, so I'm sure they can find a guy somewhere in the draft.
Yeah, and I mean, yes, the Guardian cap does dramatically reduce the amount of concussions, but it's not like a guarantee one size fits all. In fact, Romeo Doubs himself sustained a concussion while wearing the Guardian cap. So I mean, it does help, but it's not a fix all solution. Dwayne, I'm kind of curious as kind of a representative of the old guard. What do you think about those Guardian caps? Are you a fan of those things, or do you think that those are just silly?
I think they're silly. They're silly, but guys, it makes them feel comfortable. And what can you say? Back in the day, man, we had the helmets with the suspension helmets with a little round pad in top, and that was all that was in there. And you never got a concussion with those helmets, but
or at least not a reported one.
not a reported one, no. But over the years, the concussion thing has become a big thing, and players today are trying to protect themselves. But I couldn't wear one of them Guardian caps, no way. Looks like somebody with a mushroom sitting up on the head, a growth, some kind of growth on top of your helmet. So, but going back to free agents, but it's not that many burners out there in free agency because teams don't let good players go, and they let guys go that's on the boiler, but they don't let good ones go. They either franchise them or sign them to a contract. And what's Philadelphia going to do with Smith? He wouldn't fit into the 49 scheme, no way. You see him come off the line and he off the ball. When he come off the field, he's got a dirty look on his face all the time. Like he want to go over and choke the head coach.
Yeah, I mean, the whole AJ Brown situation out there is very interesting, and I do kind of wonder. We were talking about pass rushers earlier, and the one name we didn't really bring up. Well, there's two guys we didn't really bring up who I want to get your opinion on. But Max Crosby, I keep seeing things. I mean, today I just saw that he was linked to the Ravens. I think his price is probably going to be a little too rich for the 49ers blood, and I wish that wasn't the case because we all know that Max Crosby loved living in the Bay Area. He talks frequently, openly about how much he loved living in this area of the world, specifically over in Oakland, which obviously is not very far from Levi's Stadium and the 49ers practice facilities. He could absolutely live there and continue and play for the 49ers and do all those things. But I just, if the asking price is a first round plus more, which is, the Raiders have said they want a Micah Parsons level return for him, which was 2 first-round picks. I don't think they'll get that, but I think they'll get at least 1 first and then something else. And so I think that that's going to be too much. I think that's going to price out the 49ers. Apparently, the Ravens today have slid in as maybe potential favorites to land him. But prior to today, there were 3 teams that kept getting brought up whenever we were talking about Max Crosby. And it's the nightmare blunt rotation for 49ers fans. It's the nightmare scenario. It's the Rams, it's the Eagles, it's the Seahawks. And oh my God, I would absolutely hate to see Max Crosby go to any of those teams. Dwayne, you got to be feeling the same way that I am, right? Like, please, if you're going to go somewhere, go to the Ravens. Like, fine. I'll be totally okay if Max Crosby goes to the Ravens. I can already see him kind of in that purple and black. I think he would look pretty good in that uniform. What do you think, Dwayne? How much would it just make you kind of just want to just bury yourself if the Ravens or the Rams or the Seahawks or the Eagles get Max Crosby?
That would be awful. But you're looking at, man, the Rams and the Seahawks getting him with their defenses is just going to make offense hard for the 49ers. And they better get a tackle that can protect the backside for Brock. I look at it, man, if only the 49ers would get in the hunt and maybe push the pocket a little bit and make somebody overspend for him, that could help them down the road. Okay, let the Rams throw two first rounds or second round out there. That'll mess them up for a few years. Also with the Seahawks too, that would hurt them too, because when you spend that kind of draft capital, it hurts for a while. You can go back and look at over the years where the Herschel Walker deal, that hurt.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, I mean that changed the course of the NFL, like completely changed the course of the NFL.
Yeah.
So, well, I mean, in other deals too. I mean, like the Ricky Williams deal. I mean, that was massive. I mean, that pretty much ended Ditka's coaching career.
When Ditka gave up the whole draft for one guy. Yeah, you can't do that. And
no.
Yeah, maybe you can push the limit to make them overspend, and that'll mess them up for a few years. So then you got time to catch up.
Yeah, all I know is that if Max Crosby goes to any of those three teams, the Eagles, the Rams, or the Seahawks, I'm just gonna puke. Like instantly, I'm going to read that news and just instantly puke. Like that's what's going to happen. And I just really hope that he goes far away into the AFC on the other side of the country. Go hang out in Baltimore. Have a great time out there. Some similar vibes to like the Raiders fan base and things like that out there in Baltimore too. Like a nice working class fan base. You know, I think that they would love him and embrace him. You'll have a much better life out there, Max Crosby. Go out there and enjoy your life in Baltimore. Please, for the love of God, do not go to the Rams or the Seahawks. We all know Max Crosby is a frequent listener of the Locked On 49ers Squad show, so hopefully he's hearing this somehow.
He's hearing it.
Yeah, man. Yeah. But there is some other things we got to get into before the end of this show today. There is, speaking of the Seahawks, a potentially former Seahawk that the 49ers have been kind of linked to as well that they might want to get in on. So we'll talk about that and more next on the other side here on the Locked On 49ers Squad show. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, joined by Dwayne Board, 4-time Super Bowl champion. And Dwayne, there's a guy out there that might be available, former Seattle Seahawk, who I really like this guy. I think that he came on very, very strong with Seattle. I know he's had some up and down time there, but I mean, the peaks are high, man. And that's Tariq Woolen. And Tariq Woolen was part of that, 6 DB look that was just fearsome that the Seahawks rolled out there. And while he's not the best tackler of that 6 DB group, he's a guy who can kind of give you a little bit of versatility in that secondary, which the 49ers really lack. So what would you think about the 49ers bringing in Tariq Woolen?
Well, I think it would be a good call if they brought him in. But last year, he only started with 7 games. His best year was in 22, his rookie year when he made the Pro Bowl. And after that, he kind of went down. But to me, watching him play, he's a man cover corner. He likes to get his hands on the receiver, and that's tough when you got a guy that can play man to man. And to me, the 49ers really don't have a man to man cover guy. Not that one that you like. When the ball's in the air, he's there to make the play. You kind of see him, the ball's in the air, and it's like, okay, is he going to make it? Is he going to make it? Nope, he didn't make it. And I think if they can add him, it'll be good for the defense, for the secondary too.
And tell me a little bit about Tariq Woolen's, what he brings to the table as far as his skill set. Like I know you're saying that he's a good cover corner in man coverage, but as far as is he going to be a press guy? Is he going to come up with a lot of interceptions? Is he going for pass deflections? What's this guy going to bring to the table for the 49ers if they do in fact go out and get him?
I think what's going to be the biggest thing for him is what he does when the ball is in the air. Okay, he's great. I can say he has the skills of knowing when the receiver is going to catch the ball. He's there to get his hands up and knock the ball away, or he's there to pick the ball. That's the biggest skill set. Is he has the ball skills that you like when the ball is being thrown and the receiver has to catch it. That's what he's going to bring to the table. And you mentioned that his tackling, that's a little suspect, but hey, all DBs aren't great tacklers now. Those guys are known to cover. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he is. You look at the total tackle numbers from last year. 41 isn't jumping off the page at you. Neither is the 1 interception. But you go back to his rookie year in 2022, 6 picks, 63 total tackles. I mean, he had 2 fumble recoveries. He also had a defensive touchdown in that rookie year. And I think that you can still maybe get something from this guy. I think that he's a guy that you could, he's obviously still a very young player. He's only 26 years old. He could be a guy that maybe they could get on the cheap, that they are able to kind of take a little bit of a reclamation project on. I think that's kind of a little strong to label Tariq Woolen as a reclamation project. I think that he could still be a very, very, very helpful guy, like you said, in man coverage. He had 12 passes defended last year. I mean, that's not nothing, it's a lot better than a lot of these guys on the secondary that the 49ers currently have on their roster. It's a lot better than they did last year. So I think you could do a hell of a lot worse than Tariq Woolen. I like the prospect of it, and I like it even more because it takes away from Seattle. And I think that is something that, we've seen, Seattle steal the 49ers head coach. Maybe we could take a little bit from take a chunk out of them too, take a little bit of their secondary and beef up the 49ers back end with that. I think it would be ultimately a good move because you need help back there. And I think you need a veteran presence. Obviously, Jason Pinnock was supposed to be that last year, and you saw him in the big nickel, and that just did not work out. I would much rather see Tariq Woolen playing that big nickel spot. I mean, they talk about big. This guy is 6'4". That's a huge, huge, huge body out there playing cornerback, 210 pounds. I mean, I think that this guy could be a find for the 49ers, especially if Raheem Morris can tap in a little bit to what you saw in his rookie season back in 2022 when he had, like I said, 6 interceptions, 16 passes defended, 63 total tackles, including 46 solo tackles. It's not a bad situation. He also had a blocked kick. I mean, he was doing a little bit of everything that rookie year. So you could do a lot worse. Could really do a lot worse. And speaking of guys that the 49ers could go out there and get, we did not talk about Jonathan Grenard from the Vikings. I mean, this is a guy who the Vikings have made known is available, and you'd have to trade for him. Obviously, he's not a free agent, but he's a guy you can go and get. And Dwayne, how would you think that Grenard would fit into this 49ers offense opposite Nick Bosa?
I think he's been a productive rusher over the years, okay? But I think he would be a plus for Nick Bosa and to get that pressure off the left side. And I don't know why the Vikings would – well, I know why, because the Vikings have cap problems. They can't afford him anymore, so they're just trying to dump their money so that they can – go. They need a quarterback, so they need to get the capital to be able to afford a quarterback, and it could be a good bargain for the 49ers to go out and bring him in.
And the 49ers just so happen to have an extra quarterback on their roster. It seems like a match made in heaven between these two teams. I just don't know that the 49ers are willing to pull the trigger on trading away Mac Jones for Grenard. I think they'd have to get I think the 49ers would want a little bit more back, which is almost crazy to say because Grenard is a very, very, very good pass rusher. And I do think that he's going to command a pretty high value in whatever the Vikings end up doing with him. I think that they will end up trading him, but maybe the fact that, like you said, they got some cap problems, they might be backed into a bit of a corner with just knowing that they got to get rid of somebody. And maybe teams are just going to sit around and wait, thinking that, maybe you'll cut him if we just wait you out. And maybe that drives the price down a little bit. So the opportunity's there. Maybe the 49ers can strike, and that would just be a great addition to this defensive line. There's a number of different options that we've talked about. They better go get somebody, man. Like they got to get somebody. I'll be happy with damn near any of the names that we threw out today, because I at this point, it's got to be better than it was last year, right? Like there's not a lot you can do to make it worse than what we saw last season as far as the pass rush goes, man.
Hey, when you go back and you look, and the quarterbacks, like we mentioned, they would be back there all day long, and it was kind of disheartening. It's like, will you please do something to create pressure? And you never saw it. You never saw the fronts running games up front, and it just kills me when guys are going straight. And you can talk to any offensive lineman. They love it when they got a rusher who only has one thing, getting up the field, because they know where he's going to be. And that's sad, because if it's just like knowing where the ball's going, but where the running back is going to run the ball before the snap count. If you know where the ball's going, you should make that tackle. Same thing with pass protection. If the tackle knows where this guy's going to run, where he's going to rush at, he's going to be right there every time, man, all day long. Yeah, the quarterback just stands back there waiting for it, waiting for the smoke to clear, waiting for the fireworks to show to start before he throws the ball. Man, that's way too disheartening.
Yeah, and the 49ers pass defense would benefit so dramatically from a additional rusher on this team. I mean, you could really do those safeties a big favor and those cornerbacks a big favor by actually getting to the quarterback and speeding them up just a half a second would make the biggest difference in the world.
Yeah, you don't even know what kind of secondary you do have right now.
Yeah,
when they had all day to throw.
Yeah, I mean, you give any wide receiver 5, 6, 7 seconds to work their way open, they're gonna get open. This is the NFL. This isn't like me running routes out there against Deion Sanders. You know what I mean? Like he'd have me covered for 2 years running routes out there. I would never be able to get away from Deion. But it's something you got to address in this offseason. And it might not be the biggest issue because like we've talked about, you need a wide receiver. You need help pretty much all over this football team. The one thing we got to get to before we get on out of here is we got to give you guys a little update on the Trent Williams situation. And the update is there is no update. The 49ers and Trent Williams still at a stalemate. And that doesn't make me feel great. And, Trent Williams just went on the pivot with Ryan Clark, former safety for the Pittsburgh Steelers and ESPN host. And one thing that Trent Williams said that kind of stuck out to me, he said that he would rather not go to a Super Bowl than go to a Super Bowl and lose again. He also said in this conversation that he doesn't really go out in San Francisco. When they were asking him about if he's out in the streets, he said no. He said he goes to work, shows up at the game, he goes home, and he DoorDashes his dinner. Not even going out to restaurants and stuff in the Bay Area, which that's a shame, man. There's some great eateries out here in the Bay Area. Phenomenal places to go get some food. I could spend a whole podcast giving you guys a rundown on places to go eat food. If there's one thing Triple E knows, it's where to get a good dinner here in San Francisco. But Trent Williams, he's not about that life, apparently. And those things, maybe they're not. Maybe I'm reading into the tea leaves a little bit too much here. It doesn't sound to me like he's super enthralled with coming back to San Francisco if he's talking about how he doesn't really enjoy, he sounds like a guy who could be happy anywhere. Like he could go to Kansas City, Missouri and be totally fine compared to living in San Francisco. He doesn't care. He's not a guy who's looking for that nightlife, who's looking for, all those things to do and go out and about in the city. He's not a see and be seen type person. He's about his business. He wants to show up. He wants to play football. He wants to go home and he wants to eat some DoorDash. That's what Trent Williams wants in his life. That doesn't sound like in that combined with I'm not going to say it's a direct shot at the 49ers, but I mean, he's obviously talking about his Super Bowl experiences with the 49ers. There's no other team that he's gone to the Super Bowl with and lost. So those things, it sounds like San Francisco is kind of souring on him. Dwayne, are you kind of feeling the same way?
Yeah, I think he's looking at going to Papados or something like that right now. I can't see him being the kind of guy that will drag it out very long. He's going to make a decision on where he's going. And you just mentioned a lot of things about him that a lot of people probably don't know, that he's not a California guy. He's like a guy, he's like a guy that's coming out. Well, he's coming out the South. Okay, he's not into all of that. He's just going to go about his business because he likes to play golf and he likes to be a homebody. But San Francisco is not his city.
He's a Texas boy, Longview, Texas. I mean, it's a long way from Longview out here in San Francisco. It's very, very, very different, obviously.
Yeah. That's why I bought up Papados. Yeah. He probably can't wait to land. And he fly home. He goes through Dallas. He can't wait to get off the plane and make that trip to Papados at the airport.
or DoorDash it once he gets to the
DoorDash when he gets home. Hey, it's hard to take those guys out of Texas.
It is.
When you grew up there, they love Texas. And right now, Houston is probably thinking, hey, Let's send him a grab bag of real food.
That's an interesting
Yeah.
it's an interesting thing to throw out there because the Texans, I think, could definitely use a guy like him. I mean, they are a team that is, I think, a little bit closer than the 49ers to making a Super Bowl appearance.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the Texans defense was amazing last season, probably the best in the NFL, or at least in contention with being one of the best. I will say Trent Williams and a bunch of the other 49ers did just go down to Cabo, and they were posting, all of the 49ers were posting a bunch of stuff about it, and just, you know, Instagram reel after Instagram reel of them going and just having a time, jumping off boats. Mac Jones doing a bunch of wild stuff out there. And you know, Kyle Juszczyk, George Kittle, among the others that were in attendance. And Trent looked like he was having fun out there with the guys. You can still keep those guys close and not be a 49er, though. And I think that that's something that like I want to look at that and say, look at the camaraderie Trent Williams has with his teammates. He doesn't want to leave this situation. But Dwayne, if you're a guy in the twilight years of your career and you got maybe one more season left, is that something you're really considering too much? Like, do you want to stick around and play with the friends, with your teammates, with the guys that you've grown close to over the last few years? Or do you just kind of want to go get the money, maybe get a Super Bowl and get on out into retirement?
Well, I look at it the last way. I would say, hey, I'm going to go get a Super Bowl and go mosey on off into retirement. And the best way I'm looking at is like, man, who's got the best team right now? Who's got the best defense right now? Who has the best chance of getting to the Super Bowl and winning it right now? You look at the conference, too, that the team plays in. It's Houston, okay? You know, I look at Jacksonville. That was a one-year wonder right there. They going back to being the same old Jacksonville Jaguars, okay? And then you look at who else is in that conference. The Colts. They got problems, okay? So the easiest way, the best team in that conference is Houston.
And they do have a pretty significant need at left tackle. I mean, after Titus Howard departed, I mean, Houston's got to get something in there at left tackle. Trent Williams, I'm sure that they would love to have him. Just as the 49ers would love to have him back next year. You got no contingency plan, but they better get one in this draft, man. Like, I swear, the 49ers better get a left tackle at some point in the draft. Maybe you don't draft him with the intention of starting him in week 1, but you better go get a guy who can who you can start grooming to take that role over. So we'll see what happens with the 49ers, with Trent Williams, and with all these other things that we talked about today. A lot of ground covered in today's show. The wide receiver market, the pass rusher market. We got a lot of things that the 49ers are kind of trying to figure out right now, and hopefully they will be able to answer a lot of these questions that we have, and hopefully those answers come sooner rather than later. But Dwayne, that's about all the time that we got today on the Locked On 49ers Squad show. Shout out to Ayrton Osley, who was unable to join us for the last 15 minutes or so of the show, but appreciate his input always. And Dwayne, always appreciate your time, man.
All right.
Well, that's all the time we got for you guys today here on the Locked On 49ers Squad show. We'll see you next time. Peace.